This is the Valorant experience for someone who's never played. So we load into the game and immediately get sent into basic training. And while I usually do everything in my power to get right into my first impressions of a game, Valorant had a different idea. As before I can even leave the starting room, I get booted out of the game, with the error window reading, "This version of Vanguard requires secure boot to be enabled." Mind you, I literally just freshly installed Vanguard a month ago, and had no issues while making the Trying League of Legends video. As it would turn out, this little conundrum would send me down a 20-minute troubleshooting adventure, ending with a visit to my computer's BIOS, and a visit to the always helpful Indian tech support side of YouTube, where we come full circle with the top comment thanking him so freaking much because he's struggling to play Valorant. So angry rants aside, let's get back into the game. We play as someone named Phoenix going through combat recertification. Given that the game is character driven, we get a lot of quippy dialogue.
Jet, come on, put Brim on.
No.
We get our first weapon and are told to shoot, and immediately my first instinct is to try aiming down sights.
First fire. Nice.
Right, so for this pistol, you can't aim down sights. Instead, it has a burst mode. Luckily, we soon get a rifle, and the game makes a very clear effort to get you to watch the bullet trail. At this point, I have to mention my resume with games like Valorant, that is to say, nothing at all. I never got into CSGO, so my first experience handling a strong spray pattern looks a little something like this. Another thing, most guns in this game do have aim down sights, just not the pistols.
Nice.
A bit more target practice and we jump into a simulated game, where we learn the basic rules of a match.
The spike is a detonation device that extracts radionite. As attackers,
We plant the spike, stop defenders from defusing it, then boom.
B opens up the shop menu where we are directed to buy shields, which absorb a percentage of damage taken before breaking, which seems like a very convoluted way of saying bonus health. Then we buy our guns and an ability. Then I pick up the spike and we get moving. Shift lets us walk silently, and now for the ability tutorial. By pressing E, Phoenix can equip a curveball. It's sort of like a flashbang which disorients the players it hits. And suddenly, the shop starts to click. Unlike games like Marvel Rivals, your abilities have charges and have to be purchased for each use. Unfortunately, that isn't entirely true, as you may have noticed my ultimate ability oddly missing from the shop, and there are ways to get some ability charges back naturally, but then again you can't have depth without a little bit of confusion. Next, since we are on site, we can plant the spike by holding 4. And now for the ultimate tutorial. Obviously each agent has their own, but Phoenix's lets him drop down a marker and return to it after delay, even through death. I also continue to fumble around like a literal newborn. Next, Defender tutorial. Just the same but in reverse. Here the game tells you how to request items in the shop, but strangely doesn't tell you how to buy items for other people. This problem will again rear its ugly head later. We fan out across the sites, and I learn more about my abilities. And now for something really cool. The tutorial teaches you about rotations, since on defense you have to hold multiple sites until the attackers commit. It teaches basic principles like repositioning at junctions, and even better than that, like a baby that just can't stop from hurting itself, the game literally picks you up and reprimands you if you try an unsafe rotation.
Take a safer route to C site through the defender-controlled area.
Otherwise, it's clear the site and defuse. From there, the game offers a quick bot match, so I'll give you the 20-second YouTube short. There isn't too much here outside of getting a feel for the flow of the game, like how money works and how everyone starts the first round extremely poor. But this brings up a weird habit that I developed, since every game more or less starts with a poverty pistol round, and pistols don't have any sort of aim down sights, you'll notice that I spend a lot of time hip-firing guns, even at long distances. But with a clean 5-1 sweep, yes, I lost a round to bots, we get spit back out at the main menu, and I can queue into my first real Valorant match. And so I fearlessly click the start button and get on my way. Naturally, one of the hardest learning curves of any hero-based game is learning each character's ins and outs. Right off the bat, we have 3 characters that I've never seen before, and after everyone's picked, add another 2 on their team that I've never seen before, and add to the fact that I haven't even read the abilities of the character that I'm playing. And one last thing before the game starts, I could gather that Swift Play is meant to be the fast, casual mode, but can't help but be a little worried about the level 286 guy in the lobby when our team's strongest soldier is a lowly 43. Right off the bat, you can see me messing around with my abilities and trying to find a reasonable place to stand guard. But soon enough the match starts, and behold, my first ever firefight. Not too shabby, but clicking on people is about the only transferable gaming skill I have, so it can only go downhill from here. Round 2, you can see me stealthily checking out my teammates' loadouts to find out if I should buy a gun, but this is where the inexperience funk really starts to get going. First off, I'm used to reading minimaps from my MOBA days, so when I see my teammates crossing safely ahead of me, I waltz right into my death. Then people start shouting out crazy talk. I do get a kill, but then immediately get my ankles broken on what I thought was a pretty decent visual sweep. Okay, down 1-3, and now we are on offense. I actually remember that I can do things besides shoot and drop some smoke on one of our setup enemies. I actually go on a bit of a tear here, but soon find out the crippling weakness of a 12-shot magazine pistol. Unfortunately, we managed to flub the 3v1, and I think this guy sums it up pretty well. On the ropes now, since Swift Play is first to 5, I pull up some spreadsheets since I can't afford both heavy armor and a Vandal. But since unknown guns scare me, I make do with 25. And here comes the most clowny Valorant gameplay you've ever seen. By my count, the smoke in front of me runs out, I freak out, desperately trying to close the interface, then I get partially blinded by some sort of goop, before getting fully blinded for about half a millisecond, before it all fades over my dead body. Miraculously, we win that round. And the next one. Before I encounter some more wacky Valorant moments, this dude calls out for an emergency reset required, and I use his corpse to find out where the enemy is. Then, even though I know there's a dude over there, I raw dog plant the spike before the wall expires, leaving said enemy completely exposed. Turns out I'm not the only one who has no idea what's happening here. So it's match point, and I once again find myself in this long tunnel. In hindsight, it's really funny to watch myself nervously checking for sightlines and windows that don't exist, even though it's literally just a straight tunnel. Unfortunately, I lose the cowboy draw drill, and my teammate loses out, meaning I officially lose my first ever game of Valorant. And while I've been mostly critical to my play, I did pull out a perfectly average 1.0 KD in our losing effort. From here I decide that it might be a good idea to familiarize myself with some of the cast, and I can't help but be a little disappointed. When I tried League of Legends out for the first time, check out that video after this one, a game also by Riot Games, every character had little visual demos for all their abilities, which makes it a lot easier to learn them. In Valorant, no one has that luxury, so you have to deduce what taking control of this drone looks like based on the aerodynamics of a dual rotor model. On the plus side, Valorant seems to be very light on cosmetics, which is a rarity in the free-to-play world, and even though there's a battle pass, I couldn't find a single character skin. To get a bit more familiar with the guns, I decided to play a quick game of Team Deathmatch, although it's not exactly the Call of Duty TDM of days of yore. When you open the buy menu, you get a unique interface, and as I spam click around, it begins to make a little bit of sense. Basically, as the game progresses, you get to go through different weapons. Otherwise, it's just good old Team Deathmatch. On the bright side, it's a good place to try out my abilities, like the aforementioned drone. Also, I get to try out a bunch of the off-brand guns that I'll never use again. On the plus side, I do find a gun that I actually like, so you know I'll be fiending this gun later. Also, this happens. And after a 14-13 KD win, I get back into the actual competitive game. Well, sort of. I thought about playing standard unranked, but decided just to play more swift play since it would expose me to more maps and characters, and thank God I did, since the next game we play fell off the rails quickly. Once in, I pick Sova and we get going. The game levels seem a lot more balanced, although I'm still the lowest level. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be the problem child for this game. In fact, the game starts out quite nicely, with positive vibes all around. In the second round, I sneak behind one of my opponents while rotating, and end up getting my teammate killed. In the third round, I get into a little fight, at which point my opponent tosses a bunch of crazy stuff at the wall behind me, and even though all these crazy things are being thrown at me, I'm still playing more shooter than hero shooter. At which point I look, and hey, I'm on top of the leaderboard. But unfortunately that also means it's only down from here. First off, one of our teammates is AFK because, quote, his headset died. And with a little bit of guidance from my team...
It's on site A, bro. I forgot, he said his headset died, he came.
He pump fakes the defuse, and gets smoked. In the next round, I win my firefight at B, before becoming the literal first responder to a double homicide at C, with the murderer still present. And after going down 1-3, the real tragedy begins. Mr. Broken Headset idles off in spawn, with the spike in his hands. I walk haplessly into some sort of detection ability, then, not to toot my own horn, but hey, I'll take the slick double kill. And I'm also still hard checking non-existent sightlines. But then my opponent hits me with the oldest trick in the book, the all chat AFK callout. And even after all these schizophrenic wall checks... Alright Valorant players, I was unfamiliar with your game. Unfortunately, my chance for payback falls a little short, as after tying the series 3-3, our in-and-out headset guy officially goes MIA for the rest of the game, and predictably, we lose the 4v5. But I would be remiss to leave out the coolest highlight. Most of the abilities I've seen from Valorant are variants of don't stand here, or block vision over there, but this is something special. And if it doesn't look like I'm using my skills much, that's because I'm not. I've only used 19 abilities in these first 3 games. Okay, so I've played 2 games now, and I'm 0-2. But God knows I'm not ending this video without at least 1 dub, so we run it back. This time on the Day 1 OG, Phoenix. Again, the level numbers are a bit worrisome. I mean, this guy doesn't even have a number. After a long rotation, I am met with a choose-your-own-adventure choice, big blue wall, which way do I go? Wrong answer. We do actually win that round, but now a problem. My team is asking for items, and I still don't know how to buy it for them. Either way, this time I play the role of guy who gets run over on sight, and we drop the round. Also, I gotta complain about the scoreboard. How am I on the bottom of the leaderboard when I'm the only one with an assist? Although, reunited with my beloved Guardian, I managed to put some kills on the board. But in the chaos of all the smoke, it was not enough. That said, I do run it back and manage to catch them off guard. Now, I don't know if that purple shield was supposed to protect this dude, but he kinda got smoked. Also, while I'm dead, I scramble to solve the problem that Valorant left me with. And somehow, I get a response of, no, you can't gift skins to your e-dating gamer friend, but you can send them an Amazon gift card. With everyone throwing abilities around, I actually remember to use my own, but on second thought, I'm not sure if my flashbang works too well in the smoke. And now for a little panic moment. Here I walk onto what I think is sight, and after clearing it out, you can see me pull out the spike. But little do I know you gotta be in the little box to plant. So I panic and just start planting in the middle of nowhere. And when we lose, we of course get the classic gamer excuse.
I can't, my mouse is dead now.
Next round sees us playing attacker on defense, as we get pushed all the way back to spawn as we rotate around. And even though I'm like 90% sure the site is clear, the sound of the spike still gets me a bit jittery. At this point, I find out why my team is requesting a bunch of items, and turns out they're just inspecting gun skins.
You got the Oni Phantom?
For the first time ever, I pop my own ultimate ability, but don't get any mileage out of it. With a chance to take the first to 5, we whiff on our push and enter match point. Winner take all. And with the game on the line, the threat of going 0-3 in Valorant on the table. In my defense, my toddler eyes were drawn to the shiny ultimate orb on the ground, so with the fate of my Valorant career in the hands of Nico, even though I'm happy I avoided going winless, a deeper dive on the analytics finds that I just managed to eke out a positive KD. So what do I think of Valorant? The people are kinda whack, the abilities are kinda whack, except this one's sick. But with the right group of friends,
Guys, what if we planted B?
That's what I was thinking too.
or a special someone, I think it could be a really good time. And if you like people playing games hopelessly out of depth, feel free to subscribe. I got more of these videos coming.